I have seen the dream of MLK come true. I have seen Martin's dream of justice alive and world when at Thanksgiving my family sits down to break bread together.
Y'all, real men serve others. Weak men serve themselves. Senator Jon Ossoff said that, and I want to tell you about a real man from right here in our own backyard who lived that sentence so completely, so quietly for so many decades that most folks driving past his highway marker every day have no idea what he actually did. Today is July 26th. Not two, but three moments in the long American story of civil rights share this exact date. One that integrated our military, one that opened the doors of this country to every American with a disability, and one where a dying man's casket finished a journey he started as a young man, getting his skull cracked open on Bloody Sunday. And he got his skull cracked open for the crime of marching. And one man from our corner of Kentucky is living proof of what all three of those moments were actually for. Y'all, it's that time, and we know what time it is. Well, let's go.
Standing for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Built upon the shoulders of the Constitution, rule of law, and the animating principle that we are all created equal. I need to hear a hallelujah, though I'm not considered a believer by some. I still believe in the warmth of heaven come. I need the rapture I feel when my feet touch the green, green grass of home. Then I know I have reached the valley of kingdom come. And when I reach that valley, I need to see you there, because we don't need a kingdom, we only need free air. We don't seek a king, we seek the brotherhood of man, and we won't fight for bondage as we need no king or woman. We will stand undivided because we will raise the fallen.
on paper that day, though it took years of real grinding struggle to make it real in practice. 42 years later, to the exact day, July 26, 1990, President H.W. Bush stood on the lawn of the White House in front of thousands of disability rights advocates and signed the Americans with Disabilities Act into law, declaring, "Let the shameful wall of exclusion finally come tumbling down." Two of the most important civil rights achievements in American history sharing a calendar day by pure historical coincidence. And then 30 years after that, July 26th, 2020, the same date carried one more important moment that still catches in my throat every time I think about it. A horse-drawn caisson carried the casket of Congressman John Lewis across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, the very bridge where 55 years earlier, almost to the week, a young John Lewis had his skull fractured by a state trooper's billy club on what became known as Bloody Sunday. You've heard U2 sing about it. Sunday, Bloody Sunday. And he was marching for nothing more than the right of Black Americans to vote. This time, Alabama state troopers lined that same bridge and saluted his flag-draped casket as it crossed. Mourners had scattered rose petals across the bridge deck to represent the blood spilled there in 1965. A man who was once beaten nearly to death for demanding his people be treated as full citizens crossed that bridge one final time as a United States congressman, honored by the same institution that once tried to break him. July 26th, 3 separate years, 3 separate milestones in this country's long, unfinished argument with itself about who counts as a full citizen. And Hardin County, Kentucky gave this country a man whose entire life is the living bridge between all three. Clip that. Segment next, the man, Master Chief Carl Brashear, Master Diver Carl Brashear. His name was Carl Maxie Brashear. And let me tell his story straight, because y'all, it doesn't need one more ounce of exaggeration to be extraordinary. He was born in 1931 in Tonyville, Kentucky, just over the line from here in LaRue County. And from 6 weeks old on, he was raised on a sharecropper's farm in Sonora, Kentucky, here in Hardin County, a little community that sits right on the LaRue-Hardin County line, which is exactly why we claim him here, why his dress uniform hangs today in the Hardin County History Museum in Elizabethtown, and I'd love to look at it. I've seen it many times, and why this county has spent decades honoring him as one of our very own. By most accounts, his formal schooling ran out around the 6th or 7th grade, a segregated Jim Crow era Kentucky education that simply stopped for Black children far short of where it stopped for white ones. Now, y'all, some tellings of his life say he taught himself to read and write at a truly advanced level entirely on his own. Of course, that wasn't according to the account that I found until he went off into the Navy. We're going to come to that. And after working 12, 14-hour days, would spend many more hours in the library in New Jersey, where Black folks actually were allowed to go to the library, because they weren't allowed at that time here in Kentucky when he left. All right, whatever the exact starting point, what's beyond dispute is this. On February 25th, 1948, 4 months before Truman's order, 17-year-old Carl Brashear walked into a segregated United States Navy, and he was determined to become something the Navy never had. He saw Navy divers at work for the first time on a port visit in Key West, and he decided right then that was going to be his life. Now, actually, I said Key West because that's what I read in my studies to build up for this, but I just found a video where he says it was Corpus Christi, Texas. So there we go. What followed was years of writing letter after letter after letter to Navy personnel. And that's a lot of formal letter writing for someone who describes himself as leaving Hardin County as functionally illiterate due to that Jim Crow diseducation. So he wrote letter to letter after letter after letter to Navy personnel requesting a slot at dive school. The number most often cited is 250 letters over 6 years before he finally got his yes. 250. Think about the discipline that takes. Not the discipline of one hard day, but of showing up to that same brick wall year after year and asking again and again and again. When he finally got his shot in 1954, he became the first African American to attend and graduate the Navy's Diving and Salvage School, one of the first black divers the Navy ever had. And it was ugly. Hate notes were left on his bunk. He said, they didn't want me to make it through the program. He said that himself decades later. He made it anyway. Clip that. Next segment, the leg and the fight that followed. Now, y'all, hopefully you've seen one of my favorite movies I've watched probably 10 times now, shown to everybody that I get a chance to, especially when I was teaching high school here in Hardin County. I wanted to inspire the students and to realize, hey, there have been people who had it as hard or harder than they have, and they had made it up and out and became a success, as Carl Brashear. So, all right, I'm going to show a video here. I would like to show you the one that has clips from the movie they made about him, which was Men of Honor, but I'm afraid if I do that, YouTube will flag it. I'll have to run a dispute, and I won't be able, you guys won't be able to see this if you don't watch it live right now. So let's go on ahead and roll this clip that I've got and look at what his life was all about. It was amazing.
This is Seaman Carl Brashear when he joined the Navy in 1949. Shortly thereafter, Carl decided he wanted to become a deep-sea diver. This was not to be easy for a young black man in a predominantly white Navy 30 years ago.
The first time I seen a deep-sea diver was down in Corpus Christi, Texas. So after seeing that doggone guy in the water, man, I thought that was the best thing since sliced bread. He was diving this in the old deep-sea helmet. So I come as to question how I could be a deep-sea diver. So probably at that time, they didn't have any colored divers in the Navy. So they give me a little run around, give me a little hassle, and a little double talk here and there, you know, and finally told me, well, we've been in touch with the diving school and was told there was no colored divers. But back in them days, they were using color. There wasn't such a thing as black.
Well, young Carl was determined. He kept trying and trying until he was finally accepted in diving school. Carl told us it won't be difficult to locate him in his class picture.
I was the first black to graduate out of salvage school in Bayonne, New Jersey.
Carl Brashear did become a frogman and made hundreds of successful dives.
You also, you know, since we aren't watching the movie, and the movie actually left out some extremely dramatic parts, such as the fact that he actually had been declared dead, and they put him in a body bag and zipped him up when he was injured, what they're going to talk about here in a minute. But if you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend it. It was horrendous. It was heinous. I actually was stationed in part of Navy EOD MU-8 when it was over in Sicily, Italy. And a lot of the EOD divers there actually were in that film. They were the actual Navy divers taking part and or making recommendations about it. And they got to meet Carl said he was one heck of a great guy.
Until one day, there was an accident. A cable pulling a salvage boat snapped, and Carl leapt in to save his buddies. His heroism cost him a leg.
And my first meeting of Admiral Jon was somewhere in May when he presented me with the Navy Marine Corps Medal.
The first thing he said to me was, well, I want to return to active duty. He considered his amputation only a minor inconvenience and a nuisance, and never considered himself disabled.
All the doctors around here reading stuff out of the paper telling me what I can't do. And you know, that really griped me. Talk my jaws, I call it, telling me what I can't do. You know, that is not in my vocabulary to say I can't. I know. And when somebody tell me I can't do something, well, that just makes me work that much harder and show them I can do it.
Carl went back to work. He was determined to get his strength back and prove that he was still fit, not only to remain in the Navy, but to keep diving. Carl dove every day for a solid year to prove he was still every bit as good as before. He made it, but what's more, he became a Master Chief Petty Officer and diving instructor for all the Navy divers.
If I hadn't have been a diver, I wouldn't have been in the Navy today. It's been in more than 30 years.
30 years in the Navy, y'all. And when they said Navy diving instructor, what they really meant, because that's something that you don't have, he was a master diver. Very few of the Navy deep sea divers or divers of any type made Navy master diver. Extreme qualification, especially for someone who had lost a leg. And before I go any further, I have one of my best friends from the Navy here, Deloy Shaw. He and I both were independent duty hospital corpsmen. We went through independent duty hospital corpsman school together, which was a debacle itself. Didn't go through anything quite as hard as Master Chief Brashear went through, right, Deloy? But it was pretty tough.
Correct. Absolutely.
So what's your impression there, Deloy, of what does Carl Brashear mean to you? Because here in Hardin County, he was from here. We've got a section of state highway named after him down there near Sonora, where he was from. We've got, if you ever come over here to visit Elizabethtown, we've got a mural for him, and our mural of heroes on Dixie Highway right across from the State Theater right before you hit the town square in Elizabethtown. And then the biggest thing I'm going to talk about later tonight is the fact that we named our Veterans Center, which here that's actually the place that you and I could go with our wives to retire, because it's a state-run veterans hospital or nursing home. You can actually take your spouse there and retire. So once there's nobody, once I need someone to wipe my ass, I don't want my kids to do that. I'm just going to go over there graciously and let them do that for me and give them my house. And I'd be honored, to be in the hospital named. It's the Carl Brashear Veterans Center right there in Radcliffe, Kentucky, just, real close to Fort Knox, not far from here. What do you think of him?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on board.
Thanks for coming.
I really, I had no idea that this happened. So it's good to know. I know I'll be on my next travels, because I love to travel. On my next travel, when I drive through, I'm going to make sure I kind of stop by and take a peek at that. So
yeah,
that's awesome to hear. It gives you a little pride inside. Not a little, but a lot, because someone went through so much perseverance, went against the grain, succeeded, and went beyond the expectation. And it's hard, because you want to, when you have your goal set and you want something and you don't want nothing else but that, I mean, that's, and once you reach that goal, it's the sense of just having that accomplishment. And I've come across that myself, and I mean, you feel good, and I hate to say it, but I know I've been I hate to call it this, but I'm an access whore. I love having access. I like to be able to walk in certain places and be able to do what I want to do. There was one time I wanted to work on a sub. Um, I got to work on a sub. I got to visit a sub, and
Were you an IDC then, or was that before that?
as an IDC. What
Awesome.
happened was the IDC. I knew an IDC, a sub IDC who was going on leave, and he wanted someone to cover for him.
Oh, and that's
And
tell people. I mean, that's extremely hard. I was a surface
very,
force
very
guy
hard.
like you were. Yeah, I mean,
So,
as hard as a surface guy. Submarine
yeah,
is
just
harder.
I was an IDC, but just for surface. But he was like, "Hey, would you like an experience on a sub?" And I was like, "Of course, I'm not going to pass that up." So he went on leave because it was his anniversary or something like that. And what happened was his friend. I would stay because when we were in port, everything is done in port. The IDC is busy, always busy on a sub. But more important because you're taking care, you're making sure all the sailors and everything are going through, making sure that when it's time to leave, they're good to go, they're healthy, and they're able to work. So a lot of your work is done in port. And then when it was time to leave, you have to do your checks and balances of nuclear areas and stuff like that. I had a sub IDC come on board also, just in case. But because I was there, I was like, I'm loving it. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So even though it was a 6 weeks, stint, I loved
Really?
it. Yes.
Now,
I
in
got to
port,
be
or
on
did you get
sub.
to go to sea?
What's that?
Was it all in port, or did you get to
No,
go
no,
to
that's
sea?
what I'm telling you. We went out
Really?
to sea. And
But they
so,
did send a submarine IDC
yeah,
with
they
you.
sent a sub IDC. They have to.
Yeah.
So I got to go. I got to go underway, and I'm telling you, it was something that it was a check in a box. I dreamed of doing it, and I wanted to do it, but I was like, hey, and just meeting that was one of my goals. The other one was they were like, hey, do you have a clearance? You can go on a sub, but you can't go on certain parts of the sub.
But you did have that clearance, right?
Hold on.
Okay.
First few days, they were like, no, you can't go down there. We need to check your stuff. We need to check your clearance, your background, all the stuff. Being not just an IDC, but being born from another country. And I had gotten my citizenship. I've gotten my clearance. And walking on that sub, and they were like, well, we're not sure about how far you can go. Just go to these areas. You can't go back here. And so they put in for it. Said, hey, they were checking my clearance, how far I got. And I tell you, the next day I walked on board, and right at the beginning, right on the at the hatch, they're like, give him the keys. He's got all the clearances. That was a level of respect I've never felt before in my life. And I was like, wow, they were like, he's clean.
What year was that?
I got to go to the areas where the nuclear stuff was and all that stuff. And I mean, meeting the goals, accomplishments. I mean, that's peanuts compared to what, Carl Brashear did. But
he paved the way.
He paved the way.
Yeah.
He paved the way.
What year was that, brother?
That was, I will tell you, that was 2012. Okay. 2012.
Okay. So that was about the time. Now, on my last ship that I was full time on was a DDG, and some of the inspectors we had, back at the headquarters for the surgeon for the fleet, there were 2 African American surface force, IDCs, senior chiefs and master chiefs, and they told me that they had tried to go to submarine IDC, and they had basically been told because they're black they wouldn't make it, and they would not let them make it. And one of my junior corpsmen, I tried to get him to go surface. He insisted on going submarine. He was also an immigrant, but he was from Guatemala. They washed him out, in my opinion, because I can't speak highly enough of this guy. He was one of the hard, I wouldn't have made it as successful if I did, if it wasn't for him. But yeah, I still wonder because, like I say, those senior chiefs and master chiefs said, yeah, it was very racist in that community still. So I'm glad to see that they embraced you. And I've seen one other African-American actually qualified IDC, submarine IDC corpsman. I think you and I might have been together when we were at the submarine conference. He might have been there. I mean, at the IDC conference, he might have been there. But anyway, yeah, I mean, just Brashear is something else. He's been my hero ever since I saw the movie. And I remember seeing them in the movie, them, show him in Sonora, Kentucky, diving into the water to jump. I think wasn't he trying to escape from bullies and dove into one of the deep creeks, or maybe actually might have been Nolan River, since now that I know geography better. And of course, since I live here, when I first started teaching in Hardin County, that's my first 2 years of teaching, more in Hardin County high schools. Man, I made sure to watch, have them see this movie. Like, hey guys, you think you've got it hard. This guy had to go through Jim Crow and here in Hardin County and in the Navy, and he made some of himself. There's a video that I really would take the time to pull up, but his son was a chief warrant officer and a pilot in you're in my era, and went through living hell in combat. And he talks about, I'll just tell you, he talks about going, he was at what he thought was a breaking point, and he goes to, after his combat time, go talk to his dad. And I can't remember if he started off complaining or just was about to talk about it, but or if he didn't have a chance to, his dad's like, God, son, I would love to have the chance to do what you're doing. And his dad was just really proud of him and honor him. And he's like, oh man, I forgot all the crap my dad went through.
Exactly.
That was kind of his way. That was therapy for him. His dad was actually on his deathbed there, and where you and I've been before, in the Portsmouth Naval Hospital. So all right, if you don't mind, I'm gonna play the rest of that video, and let's move a little bit. We'll come back and discuss. So much appreciate having you on here.
Not a problem.
That's how great it's been to me. That's how much I love it.
Carl Brashear has been an inspiration to everyone with whom he has come in contact. This season, he is the first guest star on the new series called Comeback, and there is a motion picture in the works about the life of Master Chief Carl Brashear.
So, there you go. A time of honor, Brashear family. Let's play just a little bit of it. So, this is his son.
My dad's famous saying is, it's not a sin to get knocked down, it's a sin to stay down. My father was a great boxing fan. He loved boxing. Two men get into a ring. At some point, one man may get knocked down. The man that gets knocked down has to find the courage, the fortitude to get back up, get in the fight. I was coming from combat duty in Iraq when I got the Red Cross message that my father was critically ill. I walked straight into my father's hospital room at the Portsmouth Naval Hospital. And having gone through combat, I was pretty beat up because of all the situations that I was put under. So I walked into my father's room complaining. My father was actually on his deathbed. I didn't know it at the time. And he looks up at me and says, son, what are you complaining about? I was doing my duty. I was healthy. I was strong. He was on his deathbed. He would have traded place with me in a heartbeat. And a few days after I got to the hospital and spent time with him, he died in my arms. His body just gave up. He'd been through so much, and he just couldn't suffer anymore. So he left us.
Oh man, I'm getting chills and about to cry.
Wow.
Deloy, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it hurts, but
Man,
it's totally understandable,
Man, that's your heritage, my heritage, and of course, that's Hardin County heritage, man. I love it.
Wow.
Woo. Well, here's to you, Carl, and to Chief Warrant Officer Brashear. Man, wow. Hey, let's come back to that one. I'm gonna stop sharing it for a minute. Let's go on just a little bit, and we'll come back because that one's deep. Man, I forgot. And I played that one for my kids before too. But just imagine that, you know. God dang. You know, I mean, you know his son had been through the crap too, you know.
Oh, yes, it's the
Uh,
legacy.
yeah, that's a
He,
legacy. There you go. But real quick, I think you'd appreciate this. You know, I got custody of my niece, and I teach in JCPS. So she actually went to orientation for her freshman year of high school, and that's going to be at Central High School in Louisville. And guess who else went there, brother? Central
I'm
High
listening.
School in Jefferson County, Kentucky. Now you're a U of L grad.
Oh yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
sir. Yes, sir. Let's give you a shout out. So that was Muhammad
Thank you.
Ali's high school.
Wow.
She's going to
I
Muhammad
need to.
Ali's high
I
schoul.
need to pay them. I need to pay that area a visit.
It's a magnet school, and man, I'm just so blessed. I've also got a Montessori program. Really excited for her. You know, she's had a tough time. That's why I got custody of her, and I'm really excited for her. I just think this legacy, you know, and that of course what he's talking about his dad saying, it's not a, what do you say? It's not a crime to get knocked down. It's a
Not
crime
at
not
all.
to get back up.
Hmm.
A similar thing Muhammad Ali would say, you know. So yeah. All right. Well, so this next segment, you know, is going to be basically about a little bit about Brashear again. We started off just to catch you up real quick. We're doing today has three important segments for civil rights. Number one, 1948. That's when Truman said that the military, he made an executive order, the military would be desegregated. Of course, put that on paper, but you know there was a struggle to get into effect.
Oh yes.
So then Carl Brashear joins right in that era. He had to write 250 letters. He was functionally illiterate when he left Hardin County because of Jim Crow laws back then. He only got to go to 6th or 7th grade before, you know, black education was done in this county, and in all of Kentucky mostly. So he had to teach himself to really read and write and teach himself science while in dive school. You've seen that in the movie. They you know portray that pretty accurately. So that's the first thing. Second thing, 1990, and this applies to you and me too. 1990 is when President George H.W. Bush signed the Americans with Disability Act into law. And that is something that, you know, as a disabled veteran like I am and you are, we've talked about that before, right? That we both are.
Yes. Oh, yes.
That actually is still a lasting legacy that affects both of us. And that was signed on this date in 1990. So there they are at the signing. You know, and we talked in the beginning about what Bush said, you know, when he signed it. It's time to bring, you know, basically tear down the the barriers
Hmm.
for folks with disabilities. That we could do a whole episode on the debacle that people with disabilities went through to have this. Of course, that also affected my brother who lost his leg and hand in Afghanistan and got a rating of 100% disability through the VA. And that also allowed him to get a federal job before he became one of the 22 a day. Now, you and I, you probably got some hiring, you know, like has that put you in the door for some hiring processes in the federal government? Because you're working for the feds now, right?
Correct. Correct. It does give you a hiring preference. Um, I've seen it. It works. Not only that, but having the VA doing, since I was under the rehab program, which is they've changed the title of it to oh gosh, it's more like a veteran prep uh, program where they get you back into the workforce. They changed the name from rehab to something else, but it works. It's effective, and it, you know, you get the education you need to be able to join the workforce. That's what the VA does. So kudos to them. I did that. I was able to get my degree, and if I feel like I'm not done, even though I qualify, I can stop and start over again. So
And can I say something real quick? Because I know
go
some
ahead.
people who really felt that, oh, you and I got preferential treatment for being veterans and disabled. And no, that's what I heard in the VA when I worked for the VA. For some people that were not veterans and were not disabled. No, it doesn't get us preference really. It just gives us a guaranteed shot at interviewing. It
Correct.
doesn't mean we're going to get hired. And that's the thing that really pisses me off, is when people think that gives us real preference, that like guarantee. No,
No,
just
not,
means we
not
will get a shot at an interview. If we go to the interview and it turns out we're just bumbling idiots, we're not going to get hired. And I want people to really know that. But it did give us that opportunity to be at the table with other folks, right?
correct. Because I mean, you can have a veteran that went to war or not, just served the military. We're kind of special because the way we think. We love organizations. We like to have structure. We're always early. If the job starts at 8, we're there 7:30, 7:45, no issues.
Amen.
We're
That's
ready
right.
to go.
Yep.
We're not like dragging in, 8:05 or something like that. No.
So the
I
Navy
mean,
was what?
we're prepared, and we can accept you know issues in the workplace a lot more than a regular person would.
Deloitte, didn't the Navy tell us if you're not 15 minutes early, you're 15 minutes late? And then the Marine
Correct.
Corps said if you're not 30 minutes early, or was it an hour early,
Exactly.
you're an hour late. I mean, it was
And if
the
you're
Marine
on
Corps was
time,
real
you're late.
for yeah, if you're on time, you're late. Exactly.
Exactly.
Hey, I want to give
So
a quick shout out, and let's
go ahead.
continue to two people here that are in the comments. We got the better weather. He's saying evening all, and then someone who's become a really good dear friend of mine from kind of that Valley Station area. He could correct me, but he's not far from where I work, which is Tom. And Tom's saying that Muhammad Ali and Greg Page came up through Central. That's where my 14-year-old's going. Page walked for his diploma the same night I did. I remember seeing him around the school, but we were not in the same social circles. Hey, Tom, please tell me in the comments, did you go to Central? Anyway, and Tom says, a high school friend suffered a spinal injury during our senior year. So I had a lot of exposure to the accessibility issues well before the American Disabilities Act was a thing. I still think about accessibility. And then we've got another great viewer on here, Coffee Cat, saying, hi, hope y'all are doing well. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Yes, please, y'all, please like, subscribe. Share this with your friends, especially if you're in Kentucky, because y'all, I need to get elected to magistrate, in November here in Hardin County. Tom, please, if you would, type me a comment there if you're still on here. I hope you are. Did you go to Central? I've talked to him. Of course, I forget where he said he went to high school. Can't remember for sure. Anywho, all right. Sorry, Deloy. I didn't mean to cut you
No
off.
issues.
Just wanted to
No,
not
no.
ignore these
Go
guys.
ahead. But I think Tom did go to Central, which
It
is
sounded
why
like that, right? Right?
Yeah.
Oh man. So, all right, a little bit quick history on Central. So Muhammad Ali went there, but that in Louisville, that's towards the West End, downtown, and it is a place that school was originally the segregated school in Louisville. What's of course, what's interesting is it was a high school, so that means that during the Jim Crow laws, I guess in Louisville they got to go past the 6th or 7th grade, whereas most of Kentucky, black folks didn't get to go past the 6th or 7th grade because they were sharecroppers and they didn't want them out of the fields really. So I'm glad to hear, I'm glad to know that Louisville at least had truly a separate school. But then once segregation was nixed in 1975, it became an integrated school. Now it is a magnet school. my niece is going there because she wants to be a lawyer, and they've got a law track, and they've also got a Montessori program. I'm just can't say enough about it. Oh my God, Tom. Oh, I can't wait. We got to get
Verified it.
Tom. You see that? Tom says, yes, my high school diploma is from Louisville Central High School at 12th and Chestnut. Oh man, not to be confused with Central State Hospital near Anchorage, Kentucky. Woo, that's awesome. Tom, I didn't know that you went the same. I got a lot of feedback here. I didn't know that you went to the same school that Muhammad Ali went to. That's freaking cool. We've talked about him going to high school plenty of times when he and I are together. So yeah. Very, very cool. Let's see what Tom
Getting
says.
excuse me,
Yeah.
if you're getting feedback, is it from over here?
It might be.
Okay.
But I can still hear you. Something
Okay.
happened. I can hear you still better, even whatever's going on. All right. Court-ordered desegregation put me there. Oh, cool. I put him there. As I lived within a half mile of Eastern High School in Middletown. Man, I know now. And Tom's an awesome dude. When you come over and make your road trip over here, Deloy, we'll have to go out for some bourbon with him. He actually works at Brown Furman downtown, one of the coolest, and oldest distillery companies. They own a lot of the liquor distilleries in Kentucky. So yeah, he works there as security. So
wow,
very,
I'm looking forward
cool
to that.
dude.
Careful,
Yeah,
careful
yeah,
what you
yeah.
say. If I come down, it might be soon.
There's a lot of things I'd love to show you, and this is freaking amazing. So I'm just so excited for my niece to go there. It's incredible. Tom, we're gonna have to talk about this live. All right, y'all, let's keep on going. So this amazing hero that we got here in Hardin County, Master Chief Carl Brashear, but more than being a Master Chief, Master Diver. That's why he was determined. He was not going to let the Navy medically retire him once he lost his leg in that injury, traumatic injury. In the movie, it's got to be correct, where he pushed people aside, saved them when that cable snapped and it chopped off his leg. Now, Deloy, I don't know if I got to mention earlier, if you heard me, but the truth is the movie could have been more dramatic. And you and I are in the Navy, so we know how this goes. That ship had to fly him over to another bigger ship with a bigger medical department. And while he was there, the doctor on the other ship, the medical department, had put him in a body bag. They said he was dead. The doctor decided, okay, I'm going to listen one more time to his heart rate. And he heard a faint pulse. They had already put him in the body bag. Before zipping him up, the doctor decided to listen one more time. Can you believe? They didn't show that in the movie. I mean, how dramatic can you get? You and I know, though, he had to go from his ship to a bigger ship, and from there to be flown over, probably, I'm assuming, to Spain, where I've been before on my submarine tender that I was first on after you and I were in IDC school. I was on a submarine tender, and we used to go from my port in Italy, in Sardinia. We go all the way over in the summer to Spain and port there for a month or so in case any submarines need to come up and get tended to. Yeah. So, God, what a story, right? Carl Brashear is just something else, man.
It is.
So,
it is.
yeah. So this segment is the leg and the fight that followed. So now the part of his story, this is Master Chief Carl Brashear, Master Diver Carl Brashear, that turned him into a legend. And I want you to feel the weight of it. In January of 1966, off the coast of Palomares, Spain, an Air Force bomber and refueling tanker collided in midair, and a hydrogen bomb went into the sea. Carl Brashear was part of the Navy salvage team sent to recover it. He wasn't a Master Chief at the time. During that operation, a length of pipe being used and a cable to hoist the bomb struck him below the left knee. He lost his lower leg. The Navy's answer was medical retirement. Thank you for your service. Your days diving are over. Carl Bashir's answer was no. While he was still in grueling physical rehabilitation, learned to walk again on a prosthetic, he started writing letters again. The same discipline, the same 250 letter kind of persistence that he had earlier, this time aimed at one goal: staying a Navy diver. The Navy, for its part, made him prove it beyond any reasonable doubt, requiring him to pass a physical diving fitness test that was tougher than what was required of divers with 2 working legs. Clip that. He passed it. He was restored to full active diving duty because, y'all, his goal was to be that master diver, which he hadn't achieved yet, even though he was many years into his career as a diver. Now, the first amputee diver in the Navy history to accomplish that. And in 1970, he became a master diver, a rank that only a small fraction of divers ever reach, and a full career, disabled or not, the first Black man ever told to hold it. So he retired in 1979 after more than 3 decades of service, and he died on July 25th, 2006, one single day on the calendar for the anniversary that we are marking tonight. All right, let's talk about it as docs. All right, what does that mean to you? Because, you know, we're Navy corpsmen, and we're looking at a man who fought hard against his own government for the right to keep on serving that country that he loved so dearly, and he was from right here in Kentucky. What do you think, Deloy? What's your take?
I mean, you don't want to give up. That's one thing. It's core. It's something that comes from the core. You just feel that, hey, I'm not through yet. You know, I have a lot more to achieve. No one likes to hear rejection. That's the way I'm going to look at it. And for him to go through that struggle and make sure he got back into the fight, because he had a lot of fight in him. I mean, that speaks a lot of a person. So
now the way I keep on calling that grit, you know?
Okay.
And I think that he was rural. You know, this I make this show about rural grit. And I mean, I don't think there's anybody that can talk about rural grit better than him. He was a sharecropper, you know, before he joined the Navy. And that's age 17. What do you think about that?
I mean, he's got a lot of, I mean, it's a discipline to be able to get up early at the crack of dawn and, you know, head out there and, you know, give out feedings early for all the animals, have them all ready, you know, ready to go. And this is not just a discipline. This is a routine, a daily routine of early rise, get everything out there, think ahead, and to avoid any issues that may come around. So if you got to, you know, get up at the crack of dawn and be ready, hey, I got to wash my face twice. I got to wash my face with cold water versus warm, you know, just so I can wake up, you know, and by the time the sunrise, have everything complete. And sometimes you don't even get the sunrise because it may rain in the morning. So
Amen.
You got repetition, so much repetition that you can't give up. You have your goal set in mind as to what you want to do, what you want to accomplish at a certain time frame. So by the time the sun comes up, boom, you feel accomplished. By midday, there's a lot of people that, you know, they're kind of barely getting up. And you yourself, you've accomplished so much before the time frame. It's time organization. So it speaks a lot of a person, you know, who was raised in the rural spot.
Amen, brother. And isn't that what they pounded into us in independent duty foreman school, time organization. Now, I think back, you're talking about that, and that makes me think of my grandfather, who was from Appalachia in eastern Kentucky, dirt poor, same era, you know, and he had to go. His dad was a Primitive Baptist Universalist preacher, and his dad, they don't pay them in the Primitive Baptist Church to preach. So they preach on Saturday and Sunday. They preach a circuit, travel around to small little churches in eastern Kentucky on Saturday and Sunday. Then Monday through Friday, they were expected to get out there and have a job because their parishioners were not paying them, you know? So he would tell my papa, hey, you and your little brother need to plow this field after you chop these trees down, get those roots out, get the rocks out, plow that field, have so many cords of wood ready for the winter, you know, cut, chopped with that cross-cut saw, no chainsaws back then, and just give him an arm's length worth of work to do. And he expected to be done when he came home from working he was a timber prospector. So he traveled all over the region of eastern Kentucky, grading timber for processing, in the mills. And it's the same thing. You're just exactly the same thing you're talking about. And that's really what I want to do on this channel, is to make us realize, hey, folks, whether you're rural white, rural black, currently, if you're a rural Mexican American work on our farms, or putting the roofing, working for a roofing contractor, you are doing that hard work here in rural America and in the big cities. That means everything. Would you agree?
Oh yes, absolutely.
What do you think? Because like I said, the hardest worker I had on my ship, because I had two junior corpsmen. The two American-born workers I had, that they were done by 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a fast frigate. And a fast frigate, dude, we had a lot of work to do. And you probably saw that in a submarine. You didn't have any junior corpsmen.
No, not at all.
Right. So I had two junior corpsmen on a fast frigate, which was just what do you remember the crew size on that submarine you were on?
Oh gosh, I cannot recall. I mean, that's 2012, but I mean, it was minimal. I got to know majority of the crew.
So independent duty corpsmen on that ship, on a submarine, on a ship, on a boat, they had to do all the work by themselves without two junior corpsmen. I had a few more crew members on my surface ship, so that warranted me two junior corpsmen. You should have had some on yours too. But the two American-born sailors I had, they were lazy. After 4 o'clock, they wanted to be done and out in the clubs and partying. And even if we were in port, if we weren't in port, we were out at sea, they thought their day was over at 4 o'clock. Like, no, dude, we've got training to do with the crew. We've got to integrate ourselves into the drills that engineering department's going to do, that the weapons department's going to do. We've got to get everybody immunizations. We don't just do sick call. We've got to go inventory all of our gear all over the ship. It was crazy. But the one worker I had that understood that, and it would work literally sometimes 36 hours straight, was the guy I'm telling you about, Jesus from Guatemala. I won't say his last name in case he will be upset, but You're from, you know,
But
you immigrated from
it
Latin
is what
America.
it
You
is.
understand it.
Either way, leadership is big. The independent duty corpsmen have to be very entailed with what leadership thinks. So you're part of the leadership, and that speaks highly of what we have gone through. Is to be in a leadership role and to understand, you know, the organization, and to be able to function within the organization, to hand instruction down, to hand guidance out, to be able to be part of the teamwork from the top and explain it to the bottom. Hey, I need you to dig in. I need you to pull some weight, some little extra weight for a little shorter amount of time or whatever, but we need to accomplish a goal. You got to have, you got to know the mission, and you got to push the mission focus.
You nailed it, brother. And I'm trying to, bring that to Hardin County. Everybody elect me in November. That's what I want to bring, is what you and I are talking about. So
And that's why you need to push a lot hard for people to understand what you have done, what you've accomplished, what you're willing to do for them, at what lengths to go. Hey, just because it's a Friday, sometimes your Friday might be a little later than anybody else's. Oh, thank God it's Friday. Yes, thank God it's Friday, but I got to think about, more than just Friday. I have to reach out to the people. They need help. They need guidance. I need to, push paperwork or, sit there and vouch for them when it comes to you representing them to the government. And it's good to know that you're doing that. You're giving back to the community, that you're willing to do that.
amen. And, now Tom mentioned something that I think you'll find interesting. He says, I've done roofing, I've done horse fencing, I've built barns and field sheds. I know some of what the immigrants deal with as workers. I have tons of respect for them. Now, before I came, after the military, I was in Virginia Beach. I bought a house there, starter house. I thought my family and I would stay there forever, but at the time, Virginia was a right to work state. So everybody was competing for that $725 an hour job in retirement. I happened to find a job as a person who went out and would retrieve human body parts when people die. Go out and do the surgeries for 8-10 hours for that. But that took me from a Virginia-based company to Montana. I thought I'd work a few years in Montana, make my way back to Virginia. But while I was out there in Montana, I found that the company I was working for was, really doing some stuff that was not in alignment with what you and I knew was legit when it came to medical work. And so I called them on it, and the leadership on it, and they sent someone from Seattle to fire me. So then I went to work for the VA, and years later, I'm like, all right, I need to get back to Kentucky. I'm going to do the troops to teacher thing. But Tom is talking about, I've done roofing. That takes me to I spent a little bit of my childhood in Montana. One of my friends there, he owns one of the largest roofing companies in Bozeman, Helena. Can't remember I know he did work in buildings. So I had him actually take care of my roof after hail damaged it, blew out the windows in the roof. And he was in a really small town in Montana, was where his main headquarters were. But he told me he had put out ads, any medium he could think of, newspapers, computers, asking for native Montanans to work for him. He couldn't find any that would. And he had people, when he would contract out with legal immigrants, most of them Mexican immigrants, they would get pissed off. Oh, you got some folks that aren't American working on my roof. Like, hey, find me some Montanans that will do it. I'll hire them today. And he was paying well, dude. He wasn't paying $7.25 an hour at all, because that's hard, nasty work. I did it when I was in college. So that brings me back to what Tom's saying, right? Tom says he has tons of respect for them. That's what my friend, in Montana was saying. You know, he's got a major business. He's doing well, but he would go under if it wasn't for them. Matter of fact, when my windows got blown out and my roof got blown out by a hailstorm, we're talking larger than a golf ball size hail. I called him, said, "Hey, brother, can you help me out? Do my roof for me. I got an insurance claim." It was Mexican American or Mexican legal working here, contractor that's a subcontractor that worked for him. That did the work lickety split. My wife was happy as heck, and they did a really fast, good job, cleaned everything up perfectly. I can't say enough. So, that's still back to what we're talking about, right? So next segment, brother, is what is being eroded right now. Now, you and I know what I still call him Secretary of Defense. I refuse to call him the SAW, Secretary of War, because Congress hadn't approved that yet. But Whiskey Pete, you and I know that he is trying to do anything he can to discredit and erase the history of folks like Carl Brashear. He's taken them off of the monuments, out of the military colleges, such as West Point and Annapolis, the Navy's college. What do you think? Before I go on.
Wow. There's a lot he wants to erase. And he's trickling down the idea, his concepts. He's trickling down the actions. It's kind of frustrating because I've heard that it's kind of apparent when you go to these commissioning ceremonies from these locations. I'm out here by Quantico, and I can tell you that.
That's where you are now?
Yeah, I'm right outside Quantico.
Oh my God, I thought you were in Texas, dude. I gotta come visit you, because that's my favorite area. Lord have mercy.
My best friend over here, he went to a graduation, and he could tell you that out of 200 OCS candidates, which is out of those candidates that are graduating to become officer candidate school, there were women. There were less than 9 women out of 200. So out of those
real quick,
women,
tell everybody what your job is now, federal government.
Oh, I work for the Department of Justice. I work in civil division. So
Dang.
what I do is I'm a personnel security specialist. I do background clearances for lawyers. Well, anyone that's getting hired, I do their background clearances, and I check on that, and then kind of make sure that before they come on board, they're checked, they're verified. You just don't pick up anybody.
Man, you're doing the Lord's work, brother. Jesus, I forgot. Dude, I gotta come visit you. That's my favorite part of Virginia, man. I love Virginia Beach where I live, but where you are is just amazing. Not far from one of my favorite cousins that's actually in Kentucky right now. She's from here, but lives over in Arlington. Oh man.
But like I was telling you here before I wrap up, before I forget, out of 200 or so candidates, 9 were women. I would say 2 of them were African American. And out of the men, we would say less than 20 were of a different race. So whether Hispanic, African American or whatever, I mean, you can tell what the push is for.
Yeah.
So,
Well, if you don't mind, let me give a quick shout out to one of my church members. It's Lorena. Her daughter was a one-star general in the Army until she retired. Once basically this guy came into, well, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but this guy came to office and it was obvious she wasn't going to make a second star. You know, her dad was a, if I remember correctly, he retired as an E8, I believe, in the Army. He's a prisoner of war also. And he's come to talk to my students both here in Hardin County when I taught
oh
here
wow,
and in Jefferson County Public Schools. Her and her husband both have an amazing story of the military giving them the opportunities.
wow.
And so yeah, giving a shout out to Lorena right now, one of my favorite parishioners. I mean, my kids have been inspired by her daughter, you know, and her husband, like I said, POW Vietnam. He retired as I believe an E8, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
So again, that's right in line, you know, because they're right here in Hardin County. So what is being eroded right now? That's the next segment I'm going into. Now, here's why I built tonight's whole show around Carl Brashear. Instead of just telling you a good history story, both of the laws that frame Carl Brashear's life are under real strain today. You just heard it from both Deloy and me. From the very department charged with enforcing one of them. On July 20th of this year, 6 days ago, the Justice Department Civil Rights Division formally declared that it will no longer rely on its own long-standing guidance interpreting the Olmstead decision, a cornerstone of how the Americans with Disabilities Act's Title II has been enforced for community-based care for people with disabilities for over a decade. That follows a wave of ADA compliance guidance the department yanked back in March of 2025. Rules covering everything from accessible retail counters to hotel customer service to gas station assistance, citing all of these things, a cost of living executive order that never once mentions the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, I told you this on an earlier episode, and I'll say it again plainly. The Department of Justice cannot abolish the Americans with Disabilities Act. Only Congress can do that, and Congress hasn't. But a law that nobody enforces is a law that exists only on paper, and directing your own department's employees to stop relying on the guidance that tells them how to enforce it is a quiet, bureaucratic way of achieving almost the same result without ever having to ask Congress for permission. Master Chief Carl Brashear spent 250 letters demanding this country actually apply its own rules to him instead of just printing them. That's exactly what's being hollowed out right now. Clip that. Next segment, the line. Fair is fair. Now, the honest hearing on both fronts. On the military integration, the fair point is real. Truman's order took years of real, ugly resistance to become the fully integrated force we have today. No single stroke of a pen changes hearts overnight. And we know that for sure, right, Deloy?
Correct.
And that's not a knock on the order, just an honest account of how hard change actually is. On the Americans with Disability rollback, the department would tell you, and I'll give it to you straight, that withdrawing outdated guidance isn't the same thing as abandoning enforcement, and that some of the rescinded material really was tied to COVID era rules that have genuinely run their course. Here's my answer. Integration's slow, hard road is exactly why you don't get to declare victory and walk away from vigilance. The struggle to make Truman's order real took decades precisely because, what do you think? What's your take, Deloy? Why did it take, years and years of hard work? What's your take on it?
The competition. You have to sometimes look at the competition, the hate. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, this is what's out there on the street and how people kind of hate competition, the way they want to put it out there. You want to diminish the oh gosh, I with this stuff right here, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you don't want to give people a chance. You want to sit there and you want to control them and you want them to just keep going. You basically want them to die off.
Yeah. Oh, you named it. Whew. So I'd say the struggle to make
so much. There's just so much that you could say, but
yeah,
when it comes down to it, you want them to die off.
Yeah. Oh God. I say the struggle to make Truman's order took real decades, precisely because enforcement makes people weary, like you're saying, die off. It wearies people, and they hope that they'll stop watching. And we're just clearing out old guidance. Doesn't explain why the department is also disowning the Olmstead guidance. The Americans with Disabilities Act core principle that people with disabilities shouldn't be warehoused away from their own communities. And Deloy and I have talked about that. Thank God for that ADA Act. We've been able to achieve great things.
Yes.
You don't get to call that housekeeping. Some laws survive being enforced every single day, not by sitting quietly on a shelf while the people meant to guard them just look that other way. So clip that and let's bring it to the next segment. We're going to bring it home, bring it to Hardin County, Kentucky. So bringing it home because this is one that's very personal to me in a way I don't often get to say so on this show. You heard Deloy and me talk about how personal it is to us. Hardin County has a stretch of state highway called Carl Brashear's, it's carrying his name. Our regional state veteran center bears his name too. And I'll tell you plainly, y'all, my wife and I told her recently that I'm planning for both of us to spend our own last years right there over in Radcliffe at that Carl Brashear State Veteran Center, right under his name, because it stands for exactly the kind of service this show is built to honor. There's a mural of him on Dixie Highway in Elizabethtown across from the State Theater. You can stand in front of it any day of the week. Cuba Gooding Jr. played him in a movie that the whole country watched. But none of that is the point. The point is a man who was told no 250 times over and who answered every single no with another letter, and who then lost a leg and got told no all over again. He wrote many more letters and answered that with a fitness test tougher than what any two-legged man had to pass in the Navy diving community. That's the whole difference between a real man and a weak one, right here in this Hardin County life. Real men serve others, and they keep serving them even when every institution they're serving keeps trying to tell them they don't belong. Now, y'all, I'm running for magistrate because I believe this county, Carl Brashear's county, whichever side of the LaRue line he happened to be born on, owes him something more than just a highway sign. We owe him the vigilance to keep the laws he lived and bled for actually enforced for the next family in this county who keeps them. Keep thinking deeply about that on this anniversary, July 26th, and every day after it. What do you have to say there, Shaw? What do you think? Deloy, sorry.
I like it. I like it. I mean, it's true. The legacy and changes, supposed to reflect on a daily basis, not just on a yearly observance. Um, we live in a great country. Um, it's
Great,
having,
and it's always possible to make it greater, right?
exactly,
It's not that we can make
absolutely,
it great again. No, it's great. We can make it greater. We don't need to go backwards. We can make it
exactly.
great.
I will say that. I mean, keep in mind that yes, you like Tom mentioned how he respects a lot of immigrants, and I will tell you, it's because the drive of some of these immigrants from their own country, they struggled and they see the struggle that they had to do. So they come to this country looking for a better way of life, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen. Um, if we give them the opportunity, to do their piece, to do what they need to do to make ends meet, is what their goal is. I understand that. I understand you can apply and you can do certain things to get there. We shouldn't be, how jailing them and then drilling them. Uh, we can make it work. There is space. There is space, and there's opportunities here for them, just like there's opportunities for us ourselves as we try to make our lives better. So it's got to take some understanding, and that's what it's going to take. And
Amen. Because
so
I mean, that's just what you and I fought for. And then some of the you and like I mentioned, my hard working junior corpsman, Jesus. I think he's retired now in the same rank as you and me, in retirement. Hopefully higher, but I think he's made the same rank. Um, God, man, you two are, some of the hardest working and also most serious Americans I know, because you knew why you became an American. You weren't just born
exactly,
into it. You knew you chose to be a serious American, and you even put your life's blood on the line when you signed up to join our military. You didn't have to, but you did.
with no
Um,
regrets.
no regrets. There you go. No
So,
regrets. Yep. Yep. So, y'all, let's think about that.
well,
I have seen the dream of MLK come true. I have seen Martin's dream of justice alive and world when at Thanksgiving my family sits down to break bread together with folks of many different races, ethnicities, religions. My family sees Martin's dream and we only judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin.
Deloy, I really appreciate you being here tonight, brother. You say you got to head
oh,
out. I
thank you
completely
for letting
understand,
me
man. That's it,
participate.
we're heading towards the end. Yeah, thank you.
All right, brother.
God Almighty, thank you, man.
Until next time.
Heck yeah, brother. Let's have you back again as soon as you can. Let me know.
All right.
Thank you. And all right, y'all. So, Tom, awesome comment. Sometimes the racism requires too much bourbon to face. The BS is real. Yeah. But also, I have seen that dream, man. I mean, with folks like Deloy and Jesus, I've seen the dream alive and well when I was on active duty in the military. And I really, really, really don't want to see us take steps backwards as I'm seeing. I'm sorry. But, that's why I'm running for office. we need to keep Carl Brashear's dream alive and well for all of us, right? Because he has lessons to teach all of us, doesn't matter who we are. All right, y'all, I am Spencer Catt, the educated hillbilly, and this has been the Hillbilly Think Tank. Come to a fiscal court meeting, bring your hardest question, whether I earn your vote or not, we will get that answer together. I'll see you there. Keep thinking deeply, and remember, in Kentucky, united we stand, divided we fall. That's not just words on a flag, y'all. That's the glue that holds us together. And, if we love our neighbors as ourselves, and we recognize that, yes, we are our brother's keeper and our sister's keeper, then we cannot be divided and we will not fall. Remember, everyone deployed overseas, and y'all, bless your corazon. That is Spanish for heart. Now, y'all, it's been a long one. Thanks for tuning in, for sticking in with us. Got a couple songs that I wrote. If you want to sit and listen to them, it basically encapsulates what I've been talking about tonight. But I hope that you're having a great weekend, coming to an end here. And let's start this weekend right. Remember all those that have gone before us to make this place such a great county to live in, great state to live in, and a great country to live in together. And again, it's all about us being together.
Standing for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Built upon the shoulders of the Constitution, rule of law, and the animating principle that we are all created equal. I need to hear a hallelujah, though I am not considered a believer by some. I still believe in the warmth of heaven come. I need the rapture I feel when my feet touch the green, green grass of home. Then I know I have reached the valley of kingdom come. And when I reach that valley, I need to see you there, because we don't need a kingdom, we only need free air. And we don't seek a king, we seek the brotherhood of man. And we won't fight for bondage, as we need no king or woman. We will stand undivided, because we will raise the fallen. Now I need to hear a hallelujah as we tear down the wall. There's a divide between heaven and earth, as tears turn to myrrh, As we walk through the valley of death, and I draw my last breath, I know rapture I feel when I touch the green, green grass of home. Then I know I have reached the holler where my ancestors roam. I have seen the dream of MLK come true. I have seen Martin's dream of justice alive and world when at Thanksgiving my family sits down to break bread together with folks of many different races, ethnicities, religions. My family sees Martin's dream and we only judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have seen the dream of MLK come true. I have trusted my life in the hands of many a black brother, a brown brother, and an immigrant brother in the military, and they have saved my life. Countless times I saw Martin's dream alive, and well, many times my destiny was tied with my brother's destiny. As we served our American dream in combat overseas, we did not care what color of skin our warrior brothers had, what adult sexual partner our warrior brothers had, or what religion they practiced or did not practice. Martin said, it must not lead us to distrust all white people, for many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. I have tasted the bittersweet taste of freedom as I held wounded warriors of America, both in battle. And when they return home for treatment, I knew then and I know now, freedom is not cheap, but I heard it ring loud and clear. Even after the battle smoke cleared, this made true to me what Martin said. When we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every city and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day. When all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, great God Almighty, we are free at last. Oh, brothers and sisters, I have seen the dream. The dream made us so great. Why would we shut out this dream from our midst now? I was told by another leader that America is the land of opportunity, but we see these opportunities dying with our dreams. Why, America? Why would we let the dream die when we were near the top of the mountain and had the whole world wanting to be us? Brothers and sisters, it is so much better to be loved and respected. That is real power. Now, we want to be the feared bully of our own people and other nations. In the past, I heard fools say they hate us because they ain't us. Now I say the rest of the world doesn't want to be us anymore. The rest of the world thinks we have lost our mind and we are the dangerous neighbors that will rob them in their sleep. This is not Martin's dream. Oh, brothers and sisters, I have seen the dream. The dream made us so great. I have seen the dream of MLK come true. I've seen Martin's dream of justice alive and well. When at the dawn's early light, I heard freedom ring. Come all ye children, sing. We must hear freedom ring. This is my American dream. Free at last, great God Almighty, we are free at last.
Standing for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, built upon the shoulders of the Constitution, rule of law.